Four.
We stopped at 4.
We're on. You were live.
We are live. Welcome, welcome. Aloha. Thom and Chris Gagne's talk show we have this evening coming to you from 93.5 FM, Aloha Nation Live. We want to tell, and especially the folks, friends of ours that are listening that have the ability to go to the computer and get our friends everywhere, all over the world, all over the universe, connected to shoutcast.com. Again, it's shoutcast.com. In the search box that you find at shoutcast.com, one word, you're going to type in one word, Aloha Truth Live. Again, it's Aloha Truth Live, and that's one word in shoutcast.com. That's how you're going to get us this evening. We're going to be streaming. We are working on our transmitter. If anybody happens to have an extra transmitter, we certainly would welcome a conversation with you as soon as possible, and we'll find a way to get to wherever you are. But again, this is Thom Gagne. My lovely wife Chris is with me this evening, and we're going to be speaking a topic that's kind of it's I guess we don't want to always be introducing topics as problems. I think that really it's a topic that is part of the human condition, that has been part of the every organized civilized group of people, and it's always had different forms, different shapes, different quantities of people. It has affected people by as many different types of people as there are. This particular topic has affected that many people as separators, with it being a religious separator, a color separator, a language separator, a location separator, so many things that have always become the one of the leading reasons for this. I think most often we find today that our separator is economic. Our separator still deals in our ethnicity and our religious beliefs, and certainly colors of our skins. And we don't even want to refer to it as homelessness. And it's not going to be the only thing we're going to discuss this evening, because there's so much to that word, there's so much to that topic. But I do want to introduce the folks that are here. That is going to be, if you have the ability to follow us, we are on shoutcast.com. It's Aloha Truth Live. And we are filming this so that we'll be able to put this up on YouTube for all those folks that are the millions of people that are going to want to see this show. So I guess Roger is our wonderful film person that nobody that's listening to, only our voice can see. And actually, Roger, I don't think that there's any footage of you, so we're going to have to change that someday. Best when he doesn't know it, though. So we're going to count on us sneaking around on you. So, so this evening, here on 93.5 FM Aloha Nation Live, we have ZG. I think I am going to stick to first names because you are going to have the ability to go to YouTube and see us. We have ZG, who is lives in our community out in Puna, has been involved in the community in many ways, musically involved, in the arts, involved. In virtually everything that all of the events where we're always requiring volunteers. ZG is one of the folks that shows up, and beautiful food always, and just a smile, and always a pleasure to have with us. We have also with us Sarah, and Sarah is from Pahoa and has the control and ownership of the Pahoa Museum, an extraordinarily interesting building. It had a lot of cultural information and a lot of just a great place if you're visiting in the Pahoa area to go and get a sense of just how wonderful and beautiful a place that you are. And Sarah has worked for years, the decades, with the folks in our community that are, we're so quick to attach labels, but folks in our community that are just challenged in so many ways. There are mental health issues, there are housing issues, there are food, nutrition, addiction issues. I mean, it's so many different things, and Sarah has just continuously extended herself. She has extended the use of her building to reach out to these folks and to give them a place to be. We'll be speaking about that and some of the things and some of the experiences that Sarah has had with that in our community, and some ideas to make it better. My lovely wife Chris has been tasked with looking up a whole bunch of research information, and so every now and then we're going to refer to Chris so that we can get to, we don't have that. And then all of you recognize, I'm sure, Sarah Steiner. That is, she is of fame and from our very first show that we did on 93.5 Aloha Nation Live. And Jean.
Take a look at that camera right there.
Okay, Jean, I think wonderful. We have Jean in two. This is perfect. And Jean is our extraordinary foundation father here, and we just so appreciate everything and everything that you do. It's extraordinary, your effort. You step far beyond the call of any. And so that's our table here. And we do have some interesting things. I do want to I wanted to start the evening in order to just to facilitate the conversation a little bit with some of the things that I think Chris will back me up on this, that we are learning as we research and get prepared for these shows are far more often just jaw-dropping. The things that either have been done, the things that are taken for granted, a statement that just drives me nuts when I hear people say that. But so I just wanted to give you some information though that exists. It's myth information is also one of my favorite things to find and to look up. And so there are some interesting things. There is, and I don't know if anyone knows, if anyone has heard, but there is a national law center on homelessness and poverty. There's a group that meets somewhere, and then they were created obviously in order to address this social issue that it impacts us all in so many different ways. Other things that come out of research like this. In 2009, Honolulu was the 9th in the United States to be classified as, it was the 9th meanest city in the way that their laws and the overall surveyed attitude was, and for that time the way that information was collected, that says how it is that we treat our folks that are less fortunate.
Don't you remember that councilman, the Honolulu councilman, that took his sledgehammer and was beating the homeless guy's shopping cart? He had his stuff in the shopping cart. Don't you remember that? Come on, front page. It was all over the KITV. Yeah, no, it was.
Yeah,
I can't remember his name, but that's the attitude. They got their sit-lie laws,
Obviously. And some things, though, that I thought were fascinating. 2016, the way that this is stated is that 40% of the homeless in Hawaii are from Hawaii. And I think that often, and it is myth information, there's something that I looked into further in order to verify the myth information of states and other places that actually will kind of round up their disadvantaged folks and buy them a ticket to Hawaii, a one-way ticket. It is in fact myth information, so that you don't be quoting
Did
that.
you get that from Snopes?
No, those are not reliable.
Yeah,
But-
Snopes is not reliable.
No, that's of
It's
course
been
not,
proven to not
that's-
be,
yeah.
so
Yeah, no, it isn't.
wherever you're mything.
Yeah, that's the. Yeah, I thought it was an interesting thing to know.
No, it
that
is.
it's so just in order to, I guess,
No, I've
say
spread that rumor
clearly.
before.
Just
I've heard it. I heard it on the streets of Pahoa.
What rumor?
That the cold states send their homeless people here because it's
right.
warm
Yeah,
and they can go eat guavas. and
Yeah, it's not true. But 40% of the homeless in Hawaii are from Hawaii. And so it's just an interesting thing to keep it in perspective in order to know, because I think it's important that we know who it is that we have to be doing this for.
Yeah, but also, if you want to do the statistics right away, 33% are mentally ill, and that is so big.
Sure.
They
Absolutely.
can't.
And actually, we should probably give a number in order to know what 33% of.
Well, basically,
What do you
across
think
the
did you
board,
come up with?
for
Because
mentally ill, it's like 1 in 4. This is all over.
No, I
the
mean,
place.
in order to qualify 33% of, and the number is, in June of 2016, they have the Big Island at
This is
1,394.
statewide.
Right, but I'm saying that the Big Island had 1,394 homeless people, is what they're saying in 2016. And then, as you said, Sarah, right before we went on air, indeed in the paper, this is the first year that there was a decline in homelessness.
That's what they say. I don't know.
They did say that.
They just did a
And
count.
prior to that, it was a 4% per year increase.
Right.
Is what it was. Obviously, just
Yeah,
by quantity of people, the Oahu is the largest collector of the counted numbers, and then there's the Big Island is second, in fact.
EGA's program, homeless program, includes sending them to the Big Island. I read it in the Star advertisement.
Well, that's something where just to give you a little bit of history about programs, Abercrombie actually, we went back as far as Abercrombie in order to have a perspective of what politically has been done, how they address the issue. And there's a lot of topics that I do want to talk on individually, but just so that we have a premise to start from of what has been done by previous folks in the system to address the issue. And what I think I did find, Chris and I talked about it a bit, and I don't think we wrote it down, but what we did find is that more often than not, solutions and even the issue itself were often addressed from an economic point. Far more often, the issue was raised by its impact, and it would start off with a poor review by someone visiting Hawaii and an encounter that they had. So either someone begging, for on the street, or someone, breaking into their car, stealing something.
Right.
And so that, interesting enough, that I thought that the approach always seemed to be the proverbial knee-jerk reaction was often based on something that was going to hurt financially. Never could I find, and even though I think our research was limited, but I never found anything that started with the concern for these folks that are at risk.
What about those charities, the religious charities and stuff?
Well,
Don't
we
they have
could talk about
concern
that.
or?
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
okay.
we can talk about them as possible solutions and how they
Right.
impact us. But again, back to our history of this.
I see.
So Abercrombie addressed this, 2009. He addressed this in what he called, and it was a highly put forth platform solution. He called it a 9-point plan. I had gotten this information from Civil Beat News, which I so far have really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I certainly can't say, whether anything is credible, to my limited ability of checking things out. But there was a gentleman, Chad Blair, that's the reporter that did the report on the then Governor Abercrombie's 9-point plan, specifically addressing homelessness. Again, pretty much like you have already said, Sarah, quite right. They far more often than not, the knee-jerk reaction is addressing Oahu, and then everything else is certainly secondary, and then in different layers of their economic impact on and what these guys are trying to put forth. So they did this and they implemented it. I won't kill you guys with the actual 9 plan, the 9 steps of it. But, and almost I can summarize it very, very easily for you. At the time, there was a gentleman, Mark Alexander, who was the point man on this for Governor Abercrombie. And he was, in essence, he was the state health and food guy. And that's how they were pushing this whole thing through, was from that angle. And they were quoted in the newspapers, all of the newspapers, so it's easily verifiable to go back and look. But they were quoted encouraging and then kind of insisting that they want you to please stop feeding the homeless. They said this, and it was publicized and written in the newspaper. They said it publicly in televised places. And they went on to say, Mr. Alexander went on to say, it does not help. In fact, it increases their numbers. He said that on film. So exactly, very much to your point,
like
I
the
think.
Pigeons?
Well, I think very much to your point, I think, is that what I'm trying to set up here is a way of what I'm trying to just point out is that the mindset, the folks that how it comes at it. So there, and needless to say, and you can certainly look this up, I won't kill you with the 9-point plan, but it says, interesting enough, quite a bit, identify and assess. It uses that a lot. It wants to identify and assess. It keeps wanting to identify and assess. I'll give you the first. It wants to identify and assess people who are chronically homeless, something that you were talking about, Sarah, for immediate services. And then his particular 9-point plan, again, talked about one-handed. This literally is written into the plan that it again, identify and assess people who are chronically homeless for immediate services in Waikiki and urban area of Honolulu. So his 9-point plan, the governor of all of the islands, specifically was dealing with this. But I think, and Sarah, if you want, it would be great if you wanted to. I think we can get away from the history of it, knowing that if you guys, I guess let me just summarize his 9-point plan for you.
I think that the 9-point plan might also be in reference to wanting to get rid of the encampments in like the tent cities.
Well, I must say that perhaps you can tell us more about that. Let me just tell you that same reporter, August, this was implemented. His 9-point plan was a 90-day fix. And it used words like eliminate, alleviate. He used words like that. And so, May, it was enacted, in 2011. August of 2011, the same reporter reports that 500 people were helped. And helped was defined as transitional or permanent housing. Waikiki was 200 people. Big Island was 136. Maui was 65 people. Kauai was 44 people, and the balance was broken up with between the other islands. And so, but just to finish the whole concept of this 9-point plan, and it was very much in trying to eradicate an economic impact that these folks are presenting to Hawaii. Now this is 2009. We are now 2017, and we're still talking about this. You know, that really very, very little has changed. But so I think, Sarah, if you could, I think, do you want to just give us like a little street insight of your experience of what people are experiencing for, or however it is that you think, you know, that we can get a better picture of how it is for folks and the lack of services or they're targeted or.
Sure. So, in terms of homeless folks in Pahoa, my business is in the middle of Pahoa town, and the town's basically one street. So we see pretty much everybody pass through at one point or another during the day. And we've become kind of known at the museum for helping people in need. And so there's been homeless people who sleep in the parking lot and kind of camp out back there because it's a fairly safe place for people to be. And there is a real lack of services in the area, and there's not really other places in the area for people to sleep at night if they don't know where else to go. And it's hard to even find transportation.
Services being like hostels, places specifically that they can sleep.
Hostels, even like a park where people would be allowed to be, or
They lock up the gates, so
Yeah.
you either get locked
Yeah, we have.
in or
We have a $14 million
Get a
something.
fence.
Yeah, the new park.
yeah, they've put up fences in a lot of places on rock walls so that people can't sleep there.
I do think, I mean, and
Write 'em
you know,
off at the
and they do have laws that I mean, that's illegal. You know, they would I think they arrest them.
I mean,
Do
but
they
that's
not?
our community property, so
Right, right,
maybe we can
right.
somehow figure out.
Right. Well, and I think that we will get to, you know, hopefully some of the solutions that are.
Yeah.
But what do you think the numbers are? What do you just a ballpark guess of what do you think the amount of with transient and permanent folks that all of us know we all of us know we see them every day. But, you know, I mean, do you think it's 25 people? Do you think it's
What, that are homeless
that
in
are
Pahoa?
yes?
So who sleep in the little mile
Sure.
long one street town every night? Maybe like 15 people a night.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's all kinds of other people who get stuck in town here and there from time to
Certainly.
time. There's plenty of people who are staying at different work trade farms in the area who maybe have issues with where they're staying, or
Sure.
I mean there's a whole interesting range of people who may or may not need services at one time or another
Sure.
in Hawaii, especially at night where they want to be safe. There are people who try to go camping down at Pohiki and get rained out and realize they can't do that, but they can't make it into Hilo, so yeah, they need a safe place for the night.
And we don't have any, right? Do we have any? I mean, other is there was a hostel? Was that a hostel that
Oh,
up
I
above?
thought the behind the lava shack had a thing, but I think those rooms are kind of rented already or something. Doesn't he have rooms for rent? I thought it's like a single.
Along the
So
side
they have
there.
rooms for rent, but it's not really like a helpful
It's
dynamic
not, yeah,
necessarily.
so if you need a, yeah, I
If
see.
you're in crisis, they're not really the place that I would go for.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
sure.
So, but then there's also like the chronic homeless population in town who have mental health issues. There are people who are mentally ill who are in town who basically just want company, and so they kind of hang out in town. And there's just a lack of workers or helpers or people who, churches or anybody really kind of like monitoring
Sure.
this population of people who clearly
Any
need
place for them
help.
to go? Yeah.
So when the Ekibono fire burnt down, that was attributed initially to homeless people starting the fire.
I remember.
At which point all of this alarm happened and people like wanted to get rid of the homeless people basically because that's who they thought was responsible for the fire. But interestingly, when we started talking to other local folks about that story, they would say, oh no, our homeless people wouldn't have burnt down our town. And it turned out that it was actually like a transient drug addicts, meth addicts in an abandoned building who had tipped over a lantern and started the fire. So that transient meth addicts are very different than what you think of when you think of chronic homeless people.
Yeah, but thank you for making that separation because it is, and it's important that to make that difference because there are those of people that require help. The folks that you're talking about with chronic, illnesses are
they need the services.
Even these meth
Well,
addicted
Yeah, I
young
think
sure.
they all
Yeah,
need
they
help.
all-
They do
And
indeed,
it's
you're right.
the lack of
Yeah,
like
different.
community infrastructure for people who are clearly having mental health problems.
Sure.
And instead of creating resources for that, we're basically criminalizing them, which I think is
Agreed.
a shame and embarrassing
Yeah, we
as a
talked
community.
And,
Yeah, I
and when
agree.
well, how we talked about it, don't you think that is, you know, that it's not a treatment because of course it just becomes a burden. There's a cost associated with it, and then they're released, and they go right back to where they were. They have nowhere to go, you know, and nor are they any less, you know, they're less prepared, you know, to do anything.
They drug them up and let them go.
Well, how terrible, you know. It seems that now I know that you try to get services for some of them. Do you not? Where you've tried to be that advocate. I don't know where we. And that's really what we need as far as folks. If folks wanted to get involved as just community members, then they could become advocates for individuals, and in essence fight for that person. Go to the services and try to get the services to see them.
Yeah. Even being a friend to them would help, or just
Sure.
a point of connection for people to have kind of like a place to land for a moment makes a world of difference.
Sure. Are there not any type of? We have a community center. Are there any types of services that are offered in those rooms that it could easily be converted to help folks during the day? You know, give them something new, maybe. You know, ask them, evaluate them, help. You know,
They
speak to
even
them.
have 2 showers over there,
Yeah.
which we were hoping.
There used to be a public health nurse there. I remember when Jasmine was little, you know.
Oh, funny.
Yeah,
That
you
would be
could take
valid.
go to the well baby clinic or whatever. Of course, they were pushing vaccinations. You know, you still
different topic.
could go to the community center, and there was a nurse there several days a week or something. I remember.
Yeah, that's
She's
funny.
of course going to be 20.
So, but there are no organized or any type of services that are is there?
There are some
You could go to
churches
the
who provide
clinic.
meals.
Oh.
Yeah, the clinic is pretty accommodating about seeing folks who walk in the morning with needs.
With their staff.
That is which clinic? That's the
So the Bay Clinic,
The Bay
and
Clinic,
then
yeah.
also the
emergency.
other emergency clinic is accommodating.
I
folks.
thought you had to either have insurance or $100 to go in there.
To the other clinic?
Yeah,
Into which?
I'm not sure.
PCMC.
And that's the emergency one.
Yeah.
So you have to. They want you to have $100 cash.
I think you have to either pay or you have to have insurance. I don't
Interesting.
think they're not like the Bay Clinic, which will take you if you have nothing.
Well, I think that to be accurate, though, if I understand it correctly, the Bay Clinic is part of its business model as a service to the
Yeah.
community. They have to take a certain amount of folks that are unable to pay, and once that quota is filled for the day, then they can turn people away
Really?
and send them to the emergency room in Hilo.
Well, I just know physically, I don't think they could possibly see any more people every day because you go there in the morning, and then when you're,
3 o'clock for
walk-ins
appointment.
at 7 for the, to see if you can get a little slot in between all their regular things. But if you want to if I don't feel good and I want to get a doctor's appointment, it's like 3 weeks or a month or longer to just see the doctor in Pahoa.
Well,
So you have to
and
go.
that's
It is a
with
walk-in.
insurance. That's with insurance.
That's
with
with
Yeah,
Ohana Care for Me or whatever.
So no,
but-
but we're talking about like state services, right? We're going because we're obviously talking about folks that are not going to be paying. They highly
right. So they
highly
probably are
unlikely
maybe
they have $100.
on a. Do some of them have?
Yeah, so like for
food-
services for homeless people who have mental health issues, they have to want and solicit help to have a worker.
Interesting.
And they have to comply with
The bureaucracy of it
the
all.
details.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Care Hawaii does a lot of like the managed care for people who have mental health issues, but if the person doesn't want help, then they basically don't help them, and so that's kind of like the reoccurring theme that you have with homeless people across the nation is they have mental health issues and they don't want to be medicated, so they're living on the street
Sure.
because they're either schizophrenic or they have chemical dependency issues so bad that that's their
More
priority, or etc. So it's challenging because we need more people to kind of like help manage this population that's basically vulnerable adults. You know, there's one woman now who's pregnant, and the police have come and seen her many times. I talk to her mother regularly. I've talked to her worker. I've reached out to pretty much everyone I can come up with. Her cousin is like an archbishop or something in Kayal. She's got like a lot of family around here.
Oh my.
And she is an unmedicated schizophrenic who's probably like 6 months pregnant. And she is still living behind the museum.
I
And
try
we
to
can't
feed her every
We
time I
try
see her.
and place her.
And
What an
she-
extraordinary story.
She doesn't. She wants to live there. She
Oh,
wants
she-
to continue to camp out back there.
You know, and it's just to interject, but you know, that what you just said, and it's something that Chris had brought up as well when we were talking about this, and it happens to be still in front of me, when Mr. Alexander said, "Please stop feeding the homeless." Do you think that there is an element here of your empowering them by the help, by the way that we're doing this, that by her having that knowledge that you under no circumstances are going to turn her out into, it happens to be pouring where we are at the moment, you're not going to turn her out. So she has that leeway, if you will, and I think you would know, I guess, that if she has that ability to run that process, so she can say, do I give up whatever she sees as freedom, her choices, and go into the services for the care that I know that I need, or do I run on Sarah's goodwill and the fact that she will not turn me out, and does it not play into, in fact, it increases their numbers?
I know there's lots of people who have strong feelings about if I'm enabling or empowering, and that's something that I have to question on a
Sure.
fairly daily basis
Sure.
myself.
No, you're doing
Fascinating.
the right thing.
Well,
You're doing-
I would
she's
think
doing the right
we would
thing,
agree, sure.
But the society has been conditioned to,
This is our dear man, Gene, speaking to you.
the society has been conditioned to be separated, disconnected from each other, from your own family, certainly from neighbors, and certainly from strangers who are having challenges out there. And so you're doing exactly the right thing. And so as we empower each other and support you and support all of us who are ready to help,
I think that
Why-
you do.
why
Great
would-
point, Gene.
why
That
would society
changes this. That makes
attack and
that
punish
makes, that
those
makes
who are ready
this
to help?
statement incorrect. And that's a beautiful thing, and that's the logic.
But
exactly.
I see the law because
But that-
because of
what you
the
said
de
makes
facto
this
reality we're in, and how everybody's dependent upon economic
Mhm.
reality.
Certainly.
We can see the value of such a statement. Don't empower them. Society is not ready to. We're not able to. We don't even have the spiritual capacity and integrity to reach out.
Certainly.
But that's where we have to turn it around. And that's where loving people, intelligent people like yourself who care. I care.
Absolutely.
I didn't grow up caring. I didn't grow up with any homeless people in Hawaii. We could in Honolulu we could count the number of homeless people on less than one hand. Less than 5 people, and everybody knew who they were. They had mental problems,
I
and they
think
lived at Aloha
back
Park.
then they called them surfers.
Well,
They lived at the beach. Just
no, not those folks, and there were a few of those. But no, really bona fide homeless people growing up. This is 2 generations ago. That didn't happen in Hawaii,
There was this mention of people being, sent over from different states to
Yes,
get
yeah.
rid of them, which, as we heard, was a myth. But
Yes.
I think that families send their mentally ill people over here because they think that it's a,
Sure.
easier
Well,
place for
shame
them
on
to
us.
be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
But
I,
it's
yeah,
certainly trying to handle
Yes.
somebody who is mentally challenged for a long period of time. And
Yeah.
sometimes, they have to want it, and so they could just want to hear. Because who doesn't want to come to a paradise?
sure,
And
go
then,
warmer.
and then when you're here, you're so separated from.
But it's not like
Your
Sarah's
support
got.
system.
She doesn't have like a dozen people living at the museum. It's like a little rotation. She kind of helps people, and then they kind of move on, or maybe they'll be, here back and forth. But I mean, really, what do you got? One or two people. I mean,
So
and then people that come and crash. But Niall would.
Right, they, I mean, none of them, in fact live there.
But you mentioned 15 people that are typically sleeping in Pahoa town, and about 15 people.
A lot of people are sleeping in their cars.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
a community, even though it's economically challenged like Pahoa, there's a tremendous amount of wealth in people having skills, and people having resources, and people with heart of aloha. And so I want to know, and by the way, I can't stay too much longer because, interestingly enough, tonight's topic being on those that are without a home, I got a phone call half an hour before the show starts. And one of my friends who's reaching out by telling him, well, I'm going to call my friend, which is me, and we're going to help this lady if she's still there. And maybe Pam, her name is Pam, might have a word or two.
Oh, sure.
If you guys are still here. I mean,
Absolutely.
I have to go pick her up shortly. But what I want to know is, because you particularly, and well, all of you care, but it sounds like you're actually providing infrastructure.
Oh, and
help.
have for years.
And that's very important. That experience tells me that you would have knowledge, best practice knowledge, that we as a community come together and we do it. And we not worry as much about the infrastructure of bureaucracy from the federal corporate empire
Right.
that limits our capacity to best practice our own quality of life. And I want to know,
Perfectly said, Gene.
I want to know what you want to do. And then, because now this is why I'm here, because I want to remind you all what you know, who you are, and where you are. And if you don't know where you are and what we're dealing with out there in the world or here around this table, okay, we're all children of Keakua God. And if you don't believe in a God, that's fine. But something allowed you to open your eyes this morning. And so I feel it's important that we remember that we are connected, that there is a divine spark that has been blessed upon us through grace. And that comes, these incredible gifts and unalienable rights come with responsibility. And society, over time, some would argue thousands of years, has consistently tried to separate us from each other, from the Creator, from the source of life itself. And so our walk in love and in aloha is limited by the regulations that are imposed upon us. But I want to remind you all that these regulations from the government, whether it's the county or the state or certainly DC, the feds, are all aspects of subdivisions, subsidiaries of a federal corporation. And that's why we created an FCC-free radio station, low power, and in fact right now the FM transmitter, it couldn't handle 3 weeks of 24/7.
It's having a moment.
So yes, it's true. But so we are on the internet, and we will be on YouTube.
We are
Okay,
streaming.
we tried it. It
We are
just
actually, let me
kicked
just
off.
jump in, Gene. We are streaming
Thank you.
shoutcast.com, Aloha Truth Live.
Yeah.
One word in the search box, Aloha Truth Live on shoutcast.com.
But
Please continue.
ladies and gentlemen out there and here at the table, it's just low power FM. yeah, we reached Pahoa in the parking lot, I guess, Malama Market parking lot, okay, fine, and that's great. But it's really more the symbolism of people ready to rebuke false claims. People ready to push back with Aloha against those that would impose unlawful regulations upon the people, upon us. And not necessarily with harmful intent. People just doing their jobs. We grew up not knowing what happened. Hello, look it up. In 1871, when they created the District of Columbia, the Constitutional Republic became a federal corporation, and by their own definition, United States Code, Article 28, Section 3002. America defined itself, USA Inc. defines itself as a federal corporation. So our ability, to remedy together as a community, it's wholly within our power. Our remedy is, we have the common law right and responsibility to fix this. Now, I don't know how to fix this, in a larger community context, which you guys might.
We are doing it though.
Well, but you must.
We are doing it with exactly what you're saying. We are doing it through the things that our collective use here, and that's how we will do this.
That's how we must. That's how we must do it. But
we have to take that back. We indeed do.
Everything through the lens of, at least for this station and all the artists that are playing, all the musicians that agree to have us play. They know we're FCC-free. They know that we are rebuking Babylon, the corporation. But we don't do it with malice. We do it with Aloha. We have to. Okay, but it needs to be done. So as this conversation goes forward, or any conversation, to find remedy in this world that has been corporatized and central bankized worldwide, it's important to remember who you are, and where you are, and that you have these rights already in your possession. So that's really what I wanted to say, and I'm here to help any way I can, and I'm so grateful that you guys are here to talk about your insights about this. But really, if you're ready to implement best practices for fixing the problem, let's do it. We're ready to do it. And we have the ear of those that work for the corporation.
We're
have
doing
their
it.
ear.
Yep.
I'm going to go pick up someone right now at
Wonderful.
at the Big Island Juice Company. And if she's interested and willing to say something
We would
in
love
her
to have
current dilemma, maybe that might be the way the universe set that up.
That's
So,
right.
excuse me.
Certainly, thank you, Gene.
All right, thank
He
you.
will be returning. He will be returning. We know he will. Oh my goodness, I just got him right in the head. CG, would you like to tell us what is it that you think of all that we've been
I think
discussing?
Gene's idea of approaching this with Aloha is very vital, given that the mental health record on this island and the state in general is not very good as far as follow through, supervision,
Services.
services that are not just centralized in Hilo, but reach the marginalized, end of the world in Puna. That we are somewhat marginalized out here as far as representation, and we know how burdened the workers are that we do have. They are so underpaid and overloaded. I wish they would open a whole new branch of just advocates, legal, medical, and actual physical aids and advocates who can help this growing baby boomer generation. We've got the largest aging population in Puna and a massive mental health issue as far as not having enough supervisory advocates, assistants and helpers who can actually physically be there to help people get services. In the city on the Madland or the mainland,
Indeed, the
they
Madland.
sent mobile units out during severe weather, hurricanes and other man-made disasters and
Terrible,
natural. They send out advocates who have first responder experience, some psychological, couple of classes in university, you know, a little bit more than just high school, a little education and experience. And they can become very good intermediates between
Well, what Sarah was saying.
yes,
that
between people
sometimes
who are
just
in the
friends.
front line, in the very front line, trying to deal with it all. As a nurse, as a psychologist, and on all these levels, we need representatives here in Puna to intercede and actually advocate. Because mental health is so underrepresented, it's so stigmatized, so is drug addiction. Many times they go hand in hand, they're inseparable, and with it comes financial difficulties. So,
Well, and then Chris had actually mentioned Chris, in doing the research, can you tell the folks that are listening that particular chart that you have? Because I thought that was extraordinary, and this dealt with affordability of actually. So regardless of if you're not dealing with someone that has any kind of deficiency whatsoever, then here, can you just say what they are?
Sure. So the current minimum wage, $8.50, and what you need to rent a 2-bedroom apartment, $22.96.
So you would have to make $20 to $23 an hour, according to in order to rent.
Yeah.
And again, I think to be fair, I think that this is probably based on Honolulu.
yeah.
So I mean, but you can exponentially, you can change it to be applicable, to our area. But just say some of the rest, and don't go so fast.
So the annual income for the minimum wage, it's $17,680. So for this bedroom,
For that same
2-bedroom,
rental.
you would spend $47,760.
No, I think that's what you needed, right?
Just on
Yeah.
rent?
Well, they do that whole 3% thing, but so
So you wouldn't spend. You needed an income. You were making 17,000. You needed 47,000 to do the rent. To
Right.
do that 8 fee.
So basically, so this person making $850 can afford a $442
a month
a month
apartment,
apartment. But
and an apartment rents.
yeah, the fair market is $1,194.
So
They
it's
don't even
it's
make
like
half of what
So,
it takes to
right, so, right.
and then I think that you could find that so I mean just in order to put again into perspective of the economic end of this impact on people, now that is someone with a job, that's someone that's functioning with a job,
Right.
and what they have to do, so I mean it's just that was, I couldn't believe, again, like when you're looking into this stuff and you're researching it, it's just jaw-dropping, jaw-dropping stuff.
Oh, the
Yeah, but that's
discrepancy
what
is
the
huge.
jaw dropping is.
Yeah,
Oh.
At minimum wage, how much would you have to work? At
108 hours a week.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
108 hours a week.
You don't even
So
have
how
that many hours allotted.
I mean, how
So-
many days is that?
Well,
Joy?
it's more than 40, right? It's twice as much. You have to work 2 weeks in 1 week plus.
Oh, right. So when do you
It's
sleep?
not realistic.
So
you
you,
get to
you have to
sleep
work
or-
2.5 weeks,
It's not realistic.
80 hours, 2.5 weeks in 1 week at your minimum wage in order to enjoy your 2-bedroom apartment. 2-bedroom apartment.
Right.
And it is extraordinary. And of course, those things can also be, misleading and a little bit odd, when you do the numbers like that, and not necessarily applicable to what we're talking about, except in another thing that we discovered in research, and it's part of certainly the Pahoa story, is the affordable housing, if that even makes sense to say that. Affordable housing, it just sounds, it almost sounds, like the beginning of a bad joke, just by itself. So the Pahoa basically we decided that it doesn't really have a hostel, it doesn't have a safe place.
No, and on that too, the like housing regulations and things have made it really challenging for people to even be able to legally kind of like camp out on their own properties while they're in the process of building or
Sure.
what have you. So, you know, I've seen homeless people who own land.
Yeah.
So I would say that the homeless problem is way more of like a political and economic problem rather than
Sure.
an actual resource problem. I mean,
Yeah.
there's abandoned houses all over. There's houses filled with squatters that the cops can't figure out how to deal with, and then there's homeless people all over the place who don't have a place to live. So I would say it's a infrastructure issue and a political problem more than it's an actual resource.
Actually,
Yeah, no,
there's
that's a
all
great
those little
perspective.
houses that they
Right.
decided that nobody could live in, and they just rotted there.
People could have lived in those for
Yeah, they
6
could.
years. There was
Right.
21
Yeah.
houses.
Right.
People could have lived there for you know.
A very
21
controversial
people?
issue that actually, just to give folks that aren't exactly from here, and again, you can, excuse me, you can hear us on shoutcast.com. In the search bar, you put Aloha Truth Live, and we are 93.5 FM, Aloha Nation Live, but we are, the thing that Sarah was mentioning about the affordable housing is controversial because it was a political figure in the community that actually got these houses, and there was a huge expense to move these things. They moved them into I think kind of an inappropriate spot. They should have had a location to put them when they were on their way, to do it. And then it became I mean, you must have so much more information than I. It became quite an issue of them being parked on somebody else's land, wasn't it, or land that was owned
Church.
and rented,
It was
and
on
then
the
they were given to a church-like community, right? And then recently auctioned off, and for money.
I'm curious about this new park in Pahoa. I understand
Look at
they spent
Sports Park.
several million on this park.
22.
Why can't a section of it be allotted to the homeless where they can pitch a tent, have access to showers, food, and facilities?
Yeah.
And they're out of the way, they're lit in certain areas with they're
Yeah,
out of-
it's not
they're
gonna-
not
you don't need it.
endangering
They're
anyone.
not going to be, using the
It would absolutely not happen.
bathroom,
Right,
using
yeah, no, I
the
think
sidewalk as a restroom.
That's
The
encouraging.
combination of encouraging more of them,
I see,
or inviting
I
them,
see.
and then also the liability of I think
Absolutely.
nobody wants to
Okay.
take
Right.
on the liability. I think also Pahoa right now is going through a pretty heavy period of gentrification,
Yes.
and so they're trying to
Development.
recover Pahoa and clean up the streets. And so there's concern that that's going to be sterilizing the streets. So instead of having Aloha as the cultural foundation for our village, there's some concern about folks who want the streets cleaned up so badly
Right. Clinical.
that the eccentricity of our lovely little village gets
Sure.
swept away.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because the sense of community in my heart and mind, the dream I have of it is that we all learn how to get along with each other
Certainly.
and work out the differences.
Exactly.
It is extraordinary because, of course, it is the most vulnerable. They just have so little defense. They have not, and as we've kind of beaten to death here, the services do they exist? The services there, and then the way that they're set up, the individual has to want to have the services take over, and
But
then they
many
have to
don't have
become.
the capacity mentally to gear themselves in that direction. That's why I believe we need agents and advocates,
Right, of course,
intercessors. There should be a whole unit, coming out not in a threatening manner, but in an actual aloha, kokua, helping what services, because left to themselves, unmedicated, unsupervised, they have very limited capacity.
Yeah, actually, I had a man come in and all he had was this crumpled up little paper and he couldn't even use his words. So we looked at his paper. He had just been discharged from
Hilo Hospital.
some Hilo event, but he said that they had his issue on there. So I called the number to get a caseworker to come help him because he was like a mess and he couldn't speak but we had to calm him down and we sat him down, but it took an hour and a half. They came.
They just put him on the bus?
No, they actually came and got him, but it took an hour and a half, but a woman did come out, but they almost didn't do anything for him because they're not allowed to do much.
Yeah.
They can't put him in their car with them for liability issues. She came out to try to convince him to find some sort of lodging for the night where he could be safe, but there isn't anything in Pahoa.
Not cheap.
Yeah, so she did end up taking him. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that.
Yeah,
But she did
say
help
it
him
was,
get a place.
yeah.
But 2 days later,
Back
he
in.
was better. He could speak and all that, but he was better. But he was still out on the streets.
See, that's
So-
the shame. We have a park, but no camping allowed. If there was camping allowed, there would be at least that issue would be covered. Facilities, showers, all the hygiene would be covered. But the closest park is in Hilo or Po'iki.
Well, and it's very difficult because, again, as you know, as we keep saying, there's that super fine line of inviting and creating a tent city. You know, there's that fine line again of enablement.
If we're only
of
talking
making,
about a dozen people.
well, but think of how quickly it's 2 dozen.
But wouldn't it be cool if we could figure out how to have an encampment
Certainly.
area that was
Certainly.
If they're
regulated
all-
and
yes,
self-sustaining?
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah,
without
they
question.
could
Exactly.
Without question, and I think, but really, what it ends up in, and an interesting thing, and Chris, again, I think part of the research, and it's something I think that I'd like to talk about a little, is any information that we have as a group of really what services are there, perhaps some services that aren't what they appear to be, and you know, so I'm thinking of things like that massive multi-gazillion-dollar building that they built out on the highway. What is that foundation?
Oh, the Shore Foundation?
The Shore Foundation.
That's a church. I'm not
So
sure
do they
exactly.
opt? I mean, is there?
Churches provide. There's some churches that do provide some meals a couple days a week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so during Hurricane Iselle, when we had to like take cover and find shelter, we ended up opening up the museum to a bunch of folks because a number of them weren't allowed at the Red Cross facility that was set up because at that time they had animals and animals weren't allowed in
That's
there.
such a big issue.
Yeah, so a lot of the homeless folks who have dogs and
Sure.
then they can't figure out where to go with the animals. And then a number of them were like just chronic alcoholics and they weren't willing to set aside their alcohol to go into the shelter. So you had like a number of basically mentally ill people willing to like hang out on the street because they couldn't take their animals and their alcohol into the gymnasium where the shelter was being provided. So then, you know, my response was, okay, so we can just like let them do their thing, or we can open up our spot and allow them to be here, and hopefully in some way they'll help out or they'll contribute on some level. And it was kind of unpleasant and smelly, but we all like made it through the hurricane together. And it was actually like uplifting for everyone.
Sure,
in a way.
yeah.
Sure.
So that fine line of like when are you enabling and when are you helping with the population that we're dealing with is kind of like always to some degree it seems like in question.
Sure, fluctuating.
But I would feel better to see my neighbors and my children see that I'm actually doing something to try to help these people as opposed to just looking away and acting like I don't
agree.
even see them.
They're human
Right.
beings.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It's
We should definitely. I am totally in agreement.
I mean, it's almost like Sarah's. You need people who just maybe retired people who want to adopt. You know, adopt
That's
a
brilliant.
chronic homeless person from Pahoa. And just be their friend. So, I mean, it seems to me like, yeah, you almost have to just, like, really every day. I mean, that's what you do. I mean, you did that with Musa. She helped the guy who, you know, she found him and he was suffering from rat lung, I guess, right? Is that when you met
So
him?
when he
And-
first showed up, yeah, he was like covered in his own feces and he
No.
wasn't talking any English.
just gibberish.
Yeah, and he made some good progress, but he had mental health issues that was a lot to manage, and I had, I guess, plenty of my own issues that got triggered by trying to work through things together, and so it was challenging, and I ended up basically using the police as my kind of support structure in dealing with him, because I couldn't really I called Adult Protective Services, I had called everyone in his family I had reached out in every way that I could to try and create more of a support structure for dealing with him. But yeah, I ended up sending him to jail for like 4 months because I
he was out
couldn't
of
deal with a
control
lot
at
of his
the end.
behaviors. Well,
Yeah.
then I went down to the warm ponds last week,
Oh,
and he
yeah.
had been released.
I saw him.
But he
down
was
there.
on a shot of Respiradol or something, Respiradol, some kind of really strong. The psychiatrist said that they haven't really given that shot very much in like the last 15 years because it's such a heavy duty.
He didn't do much of anything.
Antipsychotic.
No, now he's
No,
just
so
It's
he's
sad
like
there.
passed out down
Yeah.
in the warm ponds after he
sitting
just
up.
got a. And when I saw him, he had the most horrific look. I shouldn't laugh, but he had the most horrific look on his face that he's like trying to survive as this vulnerable adult down at the warm ponds with like a bag of chips.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know. It's how do they? I mean, how do you release people and just
Sure.
He's so vibrant.
let them? Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I know, and I think that's, if anything, I mean, so is there, I mean, other than just kind of the ambiguity of churches offering meals, did you find any specific groups like the Shore Foundation, or what was the other one, Hope?
There's
Hope
Hope
Services.
Services.
deals with homelessness, but their new director has made it very clear that they don't deal with mental illness.
Yeah.
This is a shame.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say that. But for so many churches on this island, that they would obstruct it at the very onset. How?
Well, it's that Hope doesn't represent all,
No,
is
Hope
that one
Services.
church?
Hope Services is our homeless, like
Well,
agency.
that's our organization, it's an acronym,
However,
right, isn't it
it's
an
the
acronym for
majority of
something?
people who are homeless have mental health issues, and they go
Yeah.
They
together.
need more
So
than food, they need housing.
Yeah.
yeah.
That looks like a very
And a little
expensive
guidance. They
building.
need somebody to hold their
I
hand.
mean, half the parking lot would suit the homeless. I'm sorry.
so
but-
that's actually-
Gigi wants to keep throwing these folks into tents. You know, have you noticed that? She just
I'm all
We
for
gotta
it.
get
I
a
think-
big,
I think
get
we-
a party tent.
she owns stock in a tent company.
We'll get one of those big like
it's a-
wedding tents.
So two of the town chronics in Pahoa who were really kind of unsavory to a lot of folks have basically been relocated to the Hilo bus terminal.
Oh my!
Who's that?
It's
John.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. I haven't
John
seen
and
him.
Steve and Vodka Steve
Oh,
are both
yeah.
basically
Wow.
supposedly
I like them
happily
all
living
out.
now in the Hilo bus
Now the folks, now Hilo actually is probably for the Big Island. For the Big Island, I think Hilo is probably has the most of the Big Island share
This
of
is
the
the truth.
the-
is we
the-
would be
Okay,
crying
because
if we
Becky,
weren't
you know,
laughing.
Jungle Love has
Because
a
it's
Kona
so
Jungle Love,
tragic.
and she
Yeah.
says there's a huge
population.
homeless population there. Yeah.
Well, then, yeah, I
it's
bet
just
it-
in the old industrial. You don't
interesting.
see them,
Yeah.
but you do see them. I mean, down on Ali'i, right by ABC store there. There's that whole section of.
Now,
Yeah.
I will say, like again, in looking into this and researching it, there are some programs that I know that Jen Ruggles had actually the council person for the Pahoa area had mentioned in I think some of the debates actually early on.
Oh, the housing first
The
stuff. Yeah,
homes,
that would be
I think
great.
it's called Homes First. And you had looked into it. Do you want to tell folks
Well,
what it's
I
about?
just skimmed it, but they just, instead of just trying to treat these people and release them onto the streets where they're like gonna drift around, they want to get them stable in a home, taking away a lot of the regulations. Like, you know, if they're an alcoholic, they need to drink
You should
until
qualify
they can be taken off and all that
if
stuff.
Right.
you could qualify the program, because what you're talking about is that often currently the way that it is you almost have to not need the services before you qualify
Yes,
for the
exactly.
services. So what I think you're saying is that, you know, the Homes First program specifically says by its title and by its intent to put folks mentally
Give 'em a place
challenged,
to be.
alcoholic or addiction issues, put them in homes first, hence the name, and then work with their mental illness, work with their addictions, because solve one issue at a time, that issue being that they have nowhere to be that's safe, take that away from the plate that you
The fear
have full of issues, and then treat. And there was a state when we were trying to find out. Did you ever get that? It was either Utah or Wyoming that did speak that did this program. They implemented the program and had I dare to say like a 100% success rate with this. There was also another thing that was pretty interesting, I think, and of course I don't know if it's true or not, but there was a state that was advertising itself perhaps, or it was just a made up wishful thinking person that said that a state employee on, I thought it was a particular day of, I think it was at the beginning of every week, would go and in essence, a state employee pickup truck would go and wake the homeless folks up and offer that if they would work for the day for the municipality, then the municipality would feed them, offer a place to be bathed, and connect them with the services.
They also gave them a monetary value.
Did they also
too,
pay?
I believe
Well, I
so.
think they paid them as well. Yes.
But it was like 5 hours.
But back to the homes first. I mean, did you want to? Was there anything that you think that was left out of how that worked for
Well,
folks?
it's any feedback that they have from it seems to be positive. They they stabilize one situation so you can work on the next one, and people, sober up. Some don't.
Right, but there was a good response.
It's a positive response, and now a lot of the emergency services that they might be using if they do have mental health issues, they're not using the emergency rooms as much because now they have a place to be, and they have.
Well, even preemptively, they instead of them going to the emergency room because something's terribly wrong.
They have a place where they can organize and keep calm, and they're not out there so much, and they can make appointments, and they actually have workers that will go to these places, so they don't have to venture
wonderful.
out.
Sure,
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
but they're all in big cities, though.
Yeah,
So
sure.
that's
I mean,
like the.
centralized, and we're marginalized out here.
Sure.
We're underrepresented. There's not enough people who can actually.
Right.
We can't expect our social workers to be mental health specialists. We can't expect our business people to be social workers and mental health workers.
Yeah.
We really need some people to come out of retirement and or something. Build a
Or
Well,
the
it's the same
community
thing.
or
to
students
step up.
thing.
in
It's a volunteer,
college who's
Yeah.
planning
Right.
to be psychologists. They could get some credit for working in the community.
I would say
With
that. I always
these
say
people.
go to the colleges and get them to
What
do their,
about? I thought there was that 14 acres on Post Office Road or something. What's going on?
Yeah, so the 14 acres, from what I understand, on Post Office Road is owned by a guy named Pastor Daniel Kikawa. He wrote a book called Aloha Keakua, which is really awesome. I'm a great fan of his book. So he and his wife own 14 acres on Post Office Road, and they want to convert it into a sanctuary of sorts for people who want to recover from like living on the streets and such.
Sure.
And the last I had heard, they were trying to get the proper like plumbing
Sure.
from the
Yeah,
county.
all of the county.
Yeah, so they were experiencing all kinds of red tape. So I actually learned about this program from the prosecutor's office.
Right.
That's who sent me the
Oh,
email from
that's
this
who.
guy. It looks
Oh,
like a
okay.
fabulous program based on Hawaiian values and really
with gardens.
Nice, so
yeah,
it's like a-
sustaining and rehabilitative.
Oh,
It looks
wow.
beautiful and awesome.
Like
And yeah, they're dealing with trying to get through
The
like red
bureaucracy
tape
of
with
it,
the county.
The county, yeah.
Yeah, but
Wow.
they're all about taking it on, and I think it would be fabulous for the town.
I do
Wow.
too.
So if
That
there's a way
sounds
for people
wonderful.
to support that,
So
that
can
would be
we
great.
like maybe Walima Pahoa can do some kind of petition and get all the business owners to be signing that? And
Well, where is
stuff?
it again? It's 14 acres on
Post Office Road.
And is that the? I'm trying to think
It's
of.
not that old.
It's
90s
not. It's not that
place.
building that's
no,
there.
No,
That's.
no, no.
I think it might be like across the street, and they
Oh, I
were
see.
proposing to have a couple buildings.
Uh,
A very well thought out proposal. That,
terrific location when you think of. I mean,
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
close to services.
Yes.
You know,
and
close-
community
across
based,
the street.
community based and integrative.
What's that guy's name again?
Daniel Kikawa. And the book is called Aloha Keakua. I believe it's Aloha Keakua Ministries. And yeah, if there's any way to to help them make that happen, I think that would be really great for all of us. Because I feel like the whole
Absolutely,
nation, needs examples of how to better learn how to deal with this issue of like mental health and homelessness.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise it's just getting criminalized, and that really doesn't
Yeah.
serve anyone.
It's dehumanizing when you criminalize.
Dude, and it's funny, that the one thing I remember when Sarah and I we talked about it a lot when it was happening, when the initial burning of the Akibono happened, and the knee-jerk reaction of the town to have the take back, Pahoa, punitive way of dealing with the loss. But I think what I noticed, and what I still am concerned about, and I think that it's what we've talked about a lot today, is that community response was almost military in nature. It was the police and the attorney, the prosecuting attorney, that were summoned to the town to address this take back Pahoa initiative. And I kept thinking to myself, and it was what we talked about, and I didn't understand that why there weren't representatives of the social services there.
Right.
Why weren't there people there that could talk about addiction? If we were going to paint these the transient folks and the homeless people as the culprits and as everything that's wrong, then why weren't there services there that we could say, what can we do as a community? Can we speak to so and so and bring him to you? Why aren't we walking down the street with, I guess if it's necessary, and I can understand it, that if it's necessary to have a presence of law enforcement, I guess I can understand that. But my thought was to have a police officer walking down the street with a social worker and approach these people, and be able to say to them, if the reality of the community is going to be black and white, if you will, then we can say to them, here are your choices.
Right,
We
well-
have someone here that can help you with the services. We have someone here that can remove you.
Well, just like during the lava flow incident, when the community came together and they sent out representatives from every possible type of agency that had to do with the immediate threat of property and home and animals and whatever.
Yeah.
We need some of that.
I don't think they
kind
sent
of,
anybody from mental health, did they?
No, but I remember
lot of
going. There was a lot
Yeah,
of people
that's a
there.
good
With,
point.
oh, I thought you were handing me
Oh,
something.
it's just click.
There was a lot of there was a lot of agencies there, but they were trying to loan you money.
Come on.
Remember? I mean, nobody. FEMA, helped
Oh,
nobody. Not one person. Not one school. No private individuals or private charter schools got helped from FEMA. But the government got helped.
The state government, you mean?
State government,
They did.
yeah, they got like reimbursed
For the National Guard stuff and for the emergency response to the utility poles.
Yeah, for that
Yeah.
the old roads they paved, and
Yeah,
now we
yeah,
can't use
yeah,
them because
yeah,
we're paid with emergency
For
money.
the upgrade to the individual who owns the land.
Right.
Yeah, it is very politicized, no question about it. So the organizations then, I think that we talked about the churches that are certainly in town. They offer some meals to the folks. When you've contacted services, and I know we've covered as much as the individual that you're trying to help has to want those services to is there, are they so, do you feel that they are so intrusive that the service to the person, that it's easy for them to not want it? Do you think that there's ever sometimes an issue that they don't understand what the person is saying to them, that they're consenting to? Do they have to?
I'm sure there's the pregnant lady who's schizophrenic and homeless behind our spot right now, it sounds like has been very over medicated in the past, and so she's, you know, scared to go back and get medicated again because
Institutions are scary too. She could be terrified.
Absolutely.
I think too it's just a lot easier to kind of like place blame than it is to come up with real healing
Something to do,
solutions
right.
to things.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, and and as we spoke before, I mean that's the purpose more always with the conversations that we have, is to get them out, you know, get them being discussed, and not to say that it's that this person's not doing it, and that's always representative of a policy,
Right, but it's,
you know, of something,
Right.
you know, something that's not human. It's and again it goes to our representatives. And I know that some of our representatives, again, Jen is Ruggles is a council person for the Puna area, and Eileen O'Hara is as well. And I know that they are concerned. They have ideas.
I have an idea.
When they what?
We should put the homeless within the humane society. They can help the animals. They have to work and help the animals, and they'll have access to services.
Oh well,
Combine
yes,
the
some
dogs,
sort of work,
the homeless
self-help.
dogs with the homeless people.
Aww.
They'll have shelter as well as the
Oh,
dogs.
it's so cute.
What's the new? It's the new humane society.
I love it.
It's a wonder. I
Come
mean,
on, man. 'Cause, I mean, what's the
Exactly.
so the bureaucracy for Pastor Daniel to get his homeless thing is what? Sewer system.
That's what yes, I believe.
Sewer system. Yeah. So I just was
Is it on
testifying about the budget
right.
and I noticed, you know, like the $173 million that they're spending on upgrading a lot of sewers all around the island, but none in Pahoa, of course. But they're gonna give us $20 million for a little part of a road, like, you know.
For municipal
That's about-
septic, septic in the big
They're
island.
putting, there's septic all over. They're putting all, you know, and they're even putting like little Aloha's going to get their little septic system, and up in North Kohala, they're putting in a little septic up there. Everybody's getting little septics, but
municipal
you know,
systems.
I guess so. It's
Well,
a county. It's the
right,
county's
yeah, that's a
paying
municipal.
for it. So
Well, the taxpayers are going to pay.
taxpayers, but not Pahoa, and you know, like there's such a thing as like composting toilets.
Well,
You
yeah,
know, I mean,
are they?
They even have electric incinerating toilets. They can zap it, and you get a little bit of ash. Okay.
Pahoa's cool because it's a one-street town, so we have the potential to do things differently and be an example for other
I
places
know,
of
that's
how
why
things
we
could be
can
done
do
differently.
composting toilets. There's no reason why. They just don't want us to do it. They don't want us to do anything.
Well, I think that it is all population driven, much more often than not, in areas that are, and then certainly representatives. The representatives are the ones that ultimately have to go to bat at the different levels of where money comes
Right.
from. They have to go and get it from from the central supply of it all. I think that what we're talking about in Pahoa and having someone that has private land, I think it's private land, and for him to, we are in the process of trying to develop and for a single residence, and it's now, of course, as far as of January 1st of 2017, no longer. Were bathrooms that were going to pukas, holes in the ground, being allowed. It was a septic system. I think things like that are ultimately growing pains of any community. You know, and as the space becomes more and more compressed, there are environmental concerns that I think are very real. That I don't necessarily believe that composting doesn't address and have an application for it. And certainly, I think here in Puna we do still have the space. We have the wonderful fortune of the space. But so I think that it's an interesting thing when you watch folks in budget that are arguing for a little piece in order to satisfy needs. I do think that downtown Pahoa, because it is a one street town, it certainly has issue with septic that needs to be addressed. And from a municipal standpoint, it's always a huge impact. It's always a massive
I think
impact.
it's the fastest growing part of all of Hawaii and the most diverse part
Oh,
of the
interesting.
whole United States, perhaps.
Wow.
Which we all get along really well considering those pieces.
Absolutely, we do.
Yeah.
For the huge differences that there are. I know it is
Right.
quite something.
Well, if we could just secede somehow or incorporate,
Yes.
I mean-
just
Well, and certainly very
answer that.
Almost
well, and
cut us
very much
off.
to Jean's
Yeah.
to Jean's point is that's exactly the point of that Jean is adamant and that we're supportive of is the idea that there is an independence that we are after. There's a righteousness of freedom that is been taken away. That no one asked. It's and it's been illegally done. And I think that at some point, we as people, as caring individuals, are going to need to address those very real and very complex issues. And it's much bigger, I think, than Hawaii and the Madland. It's generationally and centuries old. And at some point, we'll actually have a discussion about that. But I don't think that it's going to be anytime in the extreme. It certainly won't be next Tuesday. But I do want to add to everyone that we're at 93.5 FM Aloha Nation Live.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the most success that I have experienced in dealing with the homeless and mentally ill kind of street population has been in getting them to help out with like the gardens and beautification projects, of having a point of connection, having a place of feeling like they are a part of the community, like they do have something to contribute or share or bring to the table. It's been really beautiful to get to see that part of things that a lot of folks have just been so out there for various reasons, that giving them a chance to land safely and kind of reconnect,
Absolutely.
even in baby steps. It's really been an honor and a pleasure to get to witness people healing in that way. It's been sad because usually
they must have a story. I mean, every one of them is, they must have a story that's worth hearing. That there's, and it would almost be a wonderful project. It would be interesting to see if La Lima can do something like that. There's certainly examples, of voice stories and written stories.
Sarah had organized, she'd been working with the prosecutor's office and, even before the fire, right, about, and that 14 acres on on the post office road and so there was a meeting one day and a bunch of the store owners came, and then there was like a dozen homeless people there, and then the police were there, and, some Main Street folks or whoever, and so a lot of them, they did it. That there was a camera there. Was there somebody taking pictures? Yeah, and the homeless people got up and they said their names, and some guys like, if I had a job, I wouldn't be like this. I just I never was like this, and so some of them just need, they land here and then they just don't get a job right away, and then it's a vicious cycle of
what I remember from that meeting is one of the cops saying that the rest of the community didn't seem to understand that if we didn't have these homeless people there on the streets, we could very likely be taken over by new drug dealers who would come in and man the vacant corners where there isn't somebody.
Yeah, there's always someone waiting, sure.
They also mentioned that the homeless situation in Hilo, folks there are quite aggressive and disrespectful, whereas the folks on the streets in Pahoa are actually
nice and sweet.
They sort of
ambassadors of
ambassadors.
Aloha, right?
Yeah, ambassadors. Right.
So there is that perspective of, you know, if it's not homeless people in the dark corner where you know their name and you can actually smile and acknowledge each other, it could very likely be somebody else who will then occupy that space who it might not be such a friendly
That's right.
dynamic.
Well,
So what if they're a part of the whole little ecosystem of the village?
well, they
It's a great
are, and you know, was a classic thing kind of after the fire, and then, you know, the school kids had to walk through, and there was no sidewalk, and so then they had to cross the street, and oh my God, you know, they're getting propositioned by these homeless guy with beer, you know, hanging out on the wall, and then it's all a big outrage, and so we have the mom squad, and you know, I thought it was kind of irresponsible of the schools to just, you know, they want to use a new park, but then they just let the kids have to walk through town, and so all of a sudden they vilified, you know, all these homeless people that are just up till now are like happy-go-lucky drunks or whatever. Okay, so it's come full circle now, because instead of protecting the school kids from the drunks, we had, I saw it on our Facebook Recover Pahoa page like last 2 weeks ago, 4 students from Pahoa High School beat up a homeless guy on the street in Pahoa, and they stole his backpack. So it's like, here you're you know, you're
that.
yeah, it was all over. It's messed up. Okay, so no, I know. It's just like there was so much outrage about, you know, the homeless people and the drunks, but then at the same time, you know, some of the homeless kids, I mean, some of the high school kids we need to be protected from too,
Yeah, right,
obviously.
the
you know?
bullies.
The bullies, yeah. I mean,
I think
Is he all right?
I don't know who it was. I don't know. The guys took the film and he was gonna go. They talked about it on Facebook and decided they wouldn't release it publicly because the kids were minors. They were going to take the film to the school and the parents of the kids. So, sorry, it's not funny, but it's just, you
The
know.
irony of it is funny because
Right.
this like really almost militant desire to like protect our town from ourselves.
From
Yeah,
ourselves, and yeah, it's, I know.
And so the whole mom squad also came about because the fire happened. The person who started the fire by accident, she actually admitted to the authorities that she had accidentally kicked over the lantern. And no one was ever arrested. So because no one was ever arrested, there was this heightened need to like figure out who to blame. And she, the person who had actually started the fire, was like roaming through town for like the week after that it had happened. So there was a need for someone to come and regulate because the authorities were clearly not the ones
No, they
who were going
weren't
to come and
doing
regulate.
it. She was openly smoking, you know, her pipe right out in front of people, and you know, and then it was like egging on. It was some of the employees from Lukeens who were traumatized because they've lost everything, and the families up there, and then the police aren't doing anything, and you know.
But to some degree, I think that it's healthy for us as a community to monitor and police ourselves.
Sure.
It's just, there's a sharp learning curve as we learn to do this together.
Right.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, and I think it was that again, and that was one of the things that I had noticed right away, was that it seemed like all of the people needed for the solution that's needed, or for the remedy, weren't invited to the meeting. You know, the social services weren't invited to
I
come.
don't
There
know
is
who
no
it would
social
be.
services,
Yeah, I don't know
right?
who
We
does
have
this.
Well, there must
They don't
be.
have
There
any
must-
advocates to go out
There's
into the community.
no,
There's
They're
no
skeleton
addiction.
crew.
Well,
So
are
there's
there?
well, in Hilo,
Well, you
there
know,
are
there was
maybe.
supposed to
There's
be.
Care Hawaii. Care
There's-
Hawaii has outreach workers and crisis workers
Okay.
who.
And that's different than Hope Services.
Yes.
Carol. Okay.
Yeah, so it's just. This is like a political thing that's been going on, I think, for quite a while. I'm not sure what president it was that like made this okay, but when they like deinstitutionalized crazy people,
You know, they did. Oh, that was Reagan.
Same
in
when it took out all the mailboxes.
in 2011, back to that 9-point plan that we
Right.
opened the show with, one of the mandates, one of the 9 points, was to establish the state interagency council on homelessness. That was one of the mandates. of this man's 9-point plan.
Anybody
So it would be
Googled that,
interesting. It would be interesting to see if that I assume it happened, and then it would be an interesting thing to
Well,
see.
it happened for 90 days.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
I just think the
I thought
term.
that was a 90-day.
Yeah, that's right.
Then it
The
then it
9-point
disbanded. 9
pro-
point in 90 days.
90 days.
And that's
I think
it.
that the interagency council was supposed to go
Be a
on.
perpetual.
And to go on, but you know, and it's just and it's an interesting thing that I wanted to tell you guys. The last 9 points. The last point
Number 9.
number 9 was to educate the general public about most effective means to eliminate homelessness.
Eliminate.
That was
Not
the
mitigate,
That was no to
but
eliminate.
eliminate.
To
What's
eliminate.
interesting
That's a
about that
tall
too
order.
is like all the squatter houses.
Sure.
You know, there's lots of squatter houses around now,
Right.
which the police like can't even go in and get the people out of those houses because of.
Actually, one of our elected officials, council person for the Puna area, was is very actively pursuing legal change to existing laws to allow associations. And actually, she might have had some success. I'll have to look into it, because what she had identified that as a huge problem, and a little bit of the issue was that the associations could not make the call to bring in authority. The owner had to,
Right.
and needless to say, many of those properties that were part of that issue or are part of that issue are off-island absentee owners.
Even owned by banks.
Sure, and
Yeah.
some of them are foreclosed properties. Yeah, so that was an interesting issue that they had with the squatter,
Well, because
issue.
that's partly why I think it's homelessness is becoming such a kind of questionable topic, is because people squatting in houses who are homeless are considered a terrible nuisance in a lot of communities at this point.
Absolutely. But
Actually,
and
there's one in our neighborhood, and they're actually made that place really nice.
Well, that's what I'm thinking is, wouldn't it be cool if there was some kind of program to put homeless people
Into
into all
those
these
houses.
Well, I
abandoned
thought that's what
houses?
Matt Purvis was working on.
I think that his church is
His
working.
grassroots
All we need is
church.
one. I mean, if we only have a dozen maximum, we're
Right.
talking one house. How hard can that be?
Well, I know. There's that big
Well,
white house.
that
I
red
thought.
tape that
you know,
always
oh, the
trips
red
us all
tape.
up.
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
the
it's
red
an interesting, and again, back to services, right? We're talking about it's an interesting thing in these types of conversations, especially here at 93.5 Aloha Nation Live. Here, because of part of our existence is that we are FCC-free. We are basically we are, and in everything that we do, we are saying more often than not that we're self-sustaining. We don't want the regulatory interference of a bureaucracy, of a federal government, of a state government. We always are fighting that in our
Right, and
backdrop.
at the same time,
And
we're like,
then-
how come you're not here
and then,
helping?
and, right, and then
I
we're-
know,
and then
I
we're-
have that
and,
same
and we keep,
dichotomy.
but I think that the thing that Gene might have been talking about, and I think it's what he was trying to say that you were and you have been doing forever for these folks, and it's why I mean people appreciate you.
Private
I mean,
sector.
in so
You
many
just have to
places.
figure out how to make money off of
Yeah, I know,
homeless
I know. But it's what Gene was talking about, and it is very much to your credit. You have been doing this forever, and people in the community recognize that. We certainly do, and that is that if we are true to our cause here, then in not expecting, we have to stop expecting that a state or federal government is going to do this for us. And I think it's to what Gene was saying, and then again back to that you do it, is that we have to do this. It's incumbent upon us to live to our our statements are here, and that I think ultimately what our dream would be is that if enough of us do it, then we are that government. We are that establishment. We have a visitor.
guest. We have a visitor.
Wonder Gene is back. Everyone, 93.5 Aloha Nation Live. Did you feel like joining us?
Sure. Have a
Okay,
seat.
great.
Yeah.
It's So everyone knows it was Pam? Yes.
Pamela, yes.
Pamela. Pamela is joining us. Pamela, why don't you tell us, I guess, what you know that our topic is about homeless folks and perhaps transient homeless folks, temporarily homeless folks. You know what, I did want to, prior to letting you speak, I just wanted to bring one thing up which I thought was fascinating, again, in researching this. The way that large organizations and like federal governments and state governments look at this, one thing that I thought was fascinating is that they have an entire category that they refer to as hidden homelessness. And what that references, and I was fascinated by this, what hidden homelessness is, and it is the average, and it was a frightening number, there was a ridiculously high number of families that are 3 pay periods away from homelessness. Meaning that at any time, something could happen, a job loss, a spouse, getting
Sick.
extraordinarily ill. Anything can happen, and the point of it obviously is that we are in such economic straits and the game is so high and the stake is so high that there's many more that are right on this line. They're right on the borderline.
I think it's closer to the truth that it's one paycheck away.
Well, perhaps so. Yes, yeah, it may be.
One
you're right.
paycheck and a little bad luck.
Yeah.
And
So
that
why
some
don't you
people
share with us?
questioning on you.
Share with us, Pam. That everybody.
What would you like me to start with first?
Well, I suppose whatever you're comfortable with, I would just encourage you
Okay.
to make it so
I
that
have some
everyone
show
can
and tell.
understand.
Would you like to see that?
Perhaps not.
It's a radio station. We're not seeing. We don't see.
I want to see.
But everybody could go, oh my gosh.
Okay, Sarah's ready.
I became homeless. My son kind of got with these people in high
Why don't you tell the people that can't see you how old you are, Pam? And
65.
Okay.
Young. 65, young. Okay. I became homeless when I had trouble in high rise, where these people were entering into my apartment.
Is this on island? Is this in Hawaii?
No, this isn't started in Illinois and
Okay.
then went to California.
Okay.
Okay. And this is where my problem started. Anyway, no matter who I went to, if I went to public aid and I complained, or if I tried to go to some other entity and complain, they consider you 5150. You're not valid, no matter what. So they're standing up for whoever is giving you trouble. So my son got my inheritance away from me, about $85,000, and did it all up in 9 months.
Did he put the 5150 on you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just so people understand, what is a 51?
That's when you're considered crazy.
So 5150 is a state
Of mind.
it is a
it's a
state
police
document.
So police.
Yeah, it's like judicial
It's a-
system.
Yeah.
It's a
It's a code
police
Is it
for-
federal?
code.
Do you know if it's
It's a
federal or
it's a police code between them and the hospitals.
in the state of California?
All of them.
It's like you're
Everywhere.
mentally not competent or whatever.
Right.
to
So is it a
represent.
federal?
No, I don't think it's that high. I think
Well,
it's
it can't
state.
It can't be state to state. And very, very seldom will you find that any two states.
I've heard
will
it in
have
Illinois, and I heard it in Texas, and I heard it in California.
I've heard
and
it
So
here.
then it's okay.
yeah.
So interesting. So
it's here
it's
too.
a document that is saying that you are incompetent.
Yes,
Okay, so then that's
Absolutely.
and that happened to you.
right. So the bottom line is, he wanted my money.
Okay.
Okay, so there you go, and money's involved.
Yeah, nothing new.
Okay, so I left town, and I started to drive, and had trouble through Kansas with the police, and I had trouble with, it was any little nitpicking thing, but anyway, I made it to California, and that's when I ran into a lot of trouble. Somebody was tearing up my car, and the police wouldn't help me with that, and they demolished it. I do have pictures in reference to that. And anyway, I started to figure it out that all the police were not in on it, It wasn't every single one. Not all of them are corrupt. There's some people you can approach with this kind of nonsense, and there's some people that you can't. And I started to call it a hate crime. This one officer kept gnawing on me and gnawing on me and gnawing on me, and I kept saying, you know, one more time and I'm going to go to the city council and I'm going to proclaim this is a hate crime. You're picking on me for no reason. You can't stop in the middle of Home Depot parking lot and give your cats a drink of water. I'm not supposed to be there. I'm camping. That kind of thing. You pull in behind you, your car's running, pulls in behind you and says, turn your car off. And I go, why? He said, turn your car off. And I said, no, I'm not going to turn my car off.
So is that how they write you up for camping? Is
Yeah.
Criminalized.
$300 to $500.
homelessness,
Yeah, $300 to $500 tickets, and then if you can't pay,
turn your car off.
pardon
It's
me?
only when you turn your car off that they can ticket.
This is
But
in,
I
this is
wouldn't
the,
do
this,
that.
this is in
Yeah,
California.
I got mad at
This
it.
is all.
Oh, you
this
got
is,
really
This
mad.
is all the way in California.
Yeah.
So if
That
you
was
don't, if
in,
you don't mind, just for time,
Monterey.
let's fast forward to now. You're in Hawaii. And now, so you're doing what? Just
I think you got to back up one more. Go back to San Luis Obispo, where I lost my car finally, and I had to go into a homeless shelter.
in California.
San Luis Obispo is in California. Yes, sir. It's central.
Coast.
Central. Yes, she's
I know
absolutely
it.
right. And what I figured out is you were promised 30 days where you didn't have to draw a lottery ball. But if they got a run of people coming in, they'll throw you out at 9:30 at night, no bus, no blanket, no sweater, no money, no place to go. And as soon as you hit someplace and fall asleep, the cops got you for camping. And so every new person that come in, like they got, like you said, another flood of people come in, they get paid by the government every
Oh,
time.
interesting.
Isn't that polite?
Yeah,
Yeah, so they got a new name and they're going to put them up for a while.
sure.
Yeah, so they're
So you
getting
don't
money
get
from the
30
government.
days. It says that you can stay.
You don't always get that. So I seen him take an 80-year-old woman who had she had heart trouble. She had congestive heart failure, and because she didn't sign in, they threw her out at 9:30 at night. It was about 40 degrees.
Yeah.
No jacket, no blanket, nothing. What do you think she was gonna do?
Yeah.
No bus, no place to go, no money.
She died.
No.
Froze.
No, when I started doing my yapping, they got her a place to live real quick.
Alright.
But I was going, oh, you don't throw some. I called the New York State Coalition for the Homeless.
Oh, nice.
And he says, I've been hearing about that place for 20 years. I said, you have? And he says, yeah, a lot of people complain. They don't know whether they have this right to do this stuff or not.
It's yeah. That's unfortunate that the facility is so overwhelmed. Because there's only so many beds, right?
You know what? The woman she was the manager of the apartment complex tried to sue investigators. There was a lady who owned a newspaper that had a little tangle with this woman, and her husband was well, let's put it this way, he was well up there in the county department in St. Louis. Anyway, she had a little tanglement with her, and well, she got her grandkids taken away from her and got her pulled over and
Sure.
busted for a ticket that she didn't need and she didn't have. She didn't have the drunkenness that the cops said she had. Anyway, the girl sends a private investigator to look around to see what else he's been doing, and her motto is keep them homeless.
Yeah.
How do you like that one? Keep them homeless.
So
She was managing the apartment house that I just moved out of in California and left. I couldn't do anything else. She wasn't there when I would have never signed a lease with her there, but she showed up 11 months later and took over. But they get paid by every new homeless person, and then they house them for a little bit and then create a noise campaign and have them complain, and then they complain about them, and pretty soon the cops tell you they don't need a reason to evict you.
Sure. Yeah. So they use the legal system as a way to get you to clear it again.
Absolutely.
So it's an interesting thing we were just talking about right before you came.
what we were talking about is that this 93.5 Aloha Nation Live, what this represents, what we're talking about it with in reference, Gene had spoken right before he left to go and help you. We were talking about how this entire evening we've been discussing homelessness and services or lack of, so we have
21 months.
But it's an interesting thing here is that what we're talking about mostly here is a way of our community, of our people that are here, to do something for those that are less advantaged. So the reason I'm saying that is because part of it is that we don't, a lot of your references is they don't, and in fact,
Well, they would be the band.
Right, and in fact, we're here saying we don't want the man.
Right.
So you can't be asking the man to take care of you at the same time that we're saying we don't want the man. So it's an interesting dilemma that we're talking at the same, about. So our replacement for this is that our community, takes care of us, and in the extension of that, then what it is really is that it goes to some sort of an administrative way of reaching beyond our immediate reach, of reaching beyond Puna, reaching beyond Pahoa, reaching beyond Hilo, reaching beyond Hawaii, in order to help folks, regardless of where they are, St. Louis, all of these different places. The programs that you're obviously, have experienced and are angry about, they
pushed into these programs.
Right. Well, I think when you ask for help from these bureaucratic organizations, then you're asking to play by their rules. And if you don't want to play by their rules, don't ask for their services. And I think that that's always been very simple. So how do we rectify that so that you can be helped and we can, as a community, do it and administer it properly? Because that is what this is all about. We can't complain about the people that we're asking to do us favors. It doesn't make sense. You're not going to help someone as they're hitting you.
Well,
Can I say? Go ahead. Go ahead.
It'd be nice if the churches would put the money up, but then not be all so attached to making all the rules of how it's spent.
Well, I don't disagree with you, except the nature of exactly what you said is, and in fact, I think it's always misrepresented that this tiny little body, and it happens in our government as well, that this tiny little body of people are in charge of administering a program that we have contributed to. What you get your services from is this country's contribution into a system.
Absolutely.
So it's not them, us, they. Those separators have to stop. And what we wanted to do this evening is not to hear we know, everyone knows that what is dissatisfying about the bureaucracy. What we're doing here, what our purpose here is to have a positive conversation to engage the folks who are going to be the people who change this paradigm that we're in, this bizarre way of looking at things, to include that you're owed anything. You're not.
I am.
And you're not.
I worked
and
for 28
it doesn't
years.
matter. Your
Medicare.
effort, your working effort was to spread your ability to help others as well.
And we did.
So now, but if you go into that, if you did that so that you were owed, then I would suggest that you didn't do it for the right purpose. I would suggest that the reason you should have done it is for what's referred to as Aloha, is to help. So now you and many people out there in our community need help. So it's not an owe, it's a responsibility of us to make sure that we say thank you
Well, how can we
for your
provide
years
ourselves
of helping others, and then we provide that thank you to you
by being that community that supports you at a time when you are not able to do this yourself. We had a lot of discussion this evening about folks that are suffering from mental issues, from addiction issues, and you appear to me to not be any of those things.
Thank you.
So what it does seem is that it's just a bit of an ebb, if you will, for you, and we as a community, our point is that we need to reach out and help just right now, because you helped for 28 years, and we do that out of love, not because you're owed it. That's the paradigm that needs to change, because that's the thing that will drive people nuts. If they think that you're entitled to it, I believe, and I'm only speaking for myself, not the folks here, but I think that's what drives people nuts, is because it's not an entitlement. What it is it's our responsibility. It's not you owed something, it's us saying thank you.
It's nice sentiments, but when you become disabled,
we have
early,
to change.
early
We're
in your
going to
career,
change that. These conversations.
you're offered Medicare.
I understand.
And then the benefits come, and they want you to use them. Unfortunately, they're not using them correctly.
Well,
And we don't have doctors.
Well, we need to make that better, and that's what we do this for.
Okay.
We do this for the positive impact of engaging. You know, the folks that you don't know that here, and you should, that Sarah has been engaging the community and engaging the folks that are at that point in their lives, either from a medical issue, a mental issue, an addiction issue, an abandonment issue, an abusive issue, and all of these things that are part of our lives, and reaching out to those folks, engaging them. And so that's what we're doing. We're doing this because we believe in our brother Gene that is talking about changing the paradigm, changing, because what we do now is that entitlement, and that's, I believe, that's where it has to change. So is it a bunch of nice words? Sure it is. Are all these, we reviewed some programs that folks set out to do. In all the ways, the intentions are good, but we need results, and you need results. So and I think that you can, thank you for sharing that with us, because it makes it real for the folks that are listening for us, and it makes it very real for us here, and we as a community we're going to stop fighting against something that's wrong to begin with. The setup is wrong. The way that we are marginalized and put into boxes, and if you don't fit all the boxes, you don't get any help. We talked about it a lot tonight, where the ridiculous setup of having a mental issue, having employment issues, having health issues, having addiction issues, and they can't house you because you have these issues. But if you didn't have these issues, then we can give you a house, and then we can offer help for all of these issues that you no longer have. And so that's the paradigm. That's the thing that we're trying to change here. And
there's unity. There's unity in our common humanity. And as he speaks of love, there's a reason why we're all here tonight. I thought it was an interesting synchronicity that we met tonight, Pam, of all nights. You're a very good communicator, and we are all about communication and problem solving. So I'm looking forward to finding out. We're going to spend some time this evening, and then also tomorrow. She has a plan, and we're going to work the plan. But there's some information that I think you will find very interesting in the way we go forward. We are not beholden to corporate fiction realities. We're not. But we were not raised to know this. We had to do a lot of soul searching and research, and now that we know, we feel we can engage each other much more directly as human beings, not as little, bureaucratic issues and compartmentalizations. We're not about that. So
I wrote a program 2
Work
years
together.
ago about trying to get some of the homeless people that had just given up off of that spiral down with the drugs and stuff. They've just given up.
Sure.
They're living like animals and they're being treated like animals, and that's the truth. They have nothing to really get up for, and they have a couple beers at night, so
No,
they says, well,
absolutely.
that's terrible.
And we talked about it before you got here. We were talking about that whole, that
You've
that
got
whole
to
issue.
give them something to do, to be proud of.
I think we have to
themselves
stop calling
again.
them.
Well, they're people, I don't know,
You know what I mean? Though?
Pat, Bob, Bill,
Yeah.
it's all of us. Yeah, all of
Joe.
us.
Because them are us. They are us.
That's
know?
right.
Oh.
they're
I was lucky. I got my own business.
wonderful.
I'm a them.
Well done.
But I didn't end up a they until I got pushed into that. But it's like I looked at this homeless shelter thing. They had a day center, and these poor people would come there and eat a couple days. They'd eat breakfast and lunch. It's amazing how they live.
Oh, absolutely.
It's amazing
So,
how they even put one foot in front of the other. and
which
they
is
walk.
why we have to change it.
And walk
It's something
on.
we have to change the way
We have
it's
some
done.
wonderful models in Northern Europe that have already shown, actually executed and done these programs that work wonderfully.
Like
I
the
just-
parolees with the dogs.
There
I
are no
like that one.
homeless, there are no drug addicts on the street, everyone has health care and shelter. How is this possible? That we, with all of our abundance and aloha, that we can't, do the same for
That, right. It has to.
Our homeless.
The change has to be that we have to change the entire view, the way that we speak to each other, the reasons that we speak to each other. We have to change because, we spent a wonderful evening this evening talking about one tiny little piece of the puzzle that is our community. The one tiny little piece of it. And there are folks that agree with us wholeheartedly. There are folks that think we're crazy. There are folks that just don't even want to think about it at all. They just go about what they do, and goes on. We have this is 93.5 FM Aloha Nation Live. We are streaming on shoutcast.com. If you want to see it, it's at Aloha Truth Live. One word, Aloha Truth Live. I want to thank all of you guys for coming. It's been a terrific discussion. We have ZG with us. Thank you so much for showing up and letting us know what's going on for you. I think it was wonderful. Sarah, thank you. Thank you. I can't say it enough. The community, at least certainly the folks here, and much larger than the folks here. Your effort is never been missed. It's always been missed. People know it and they see it and they appreciate your effort. My lovely wife Chris, thank you so much for doing it. Chris did the whole bunch of research for us and it was vital information. Sarah, thank you very much for joining us again. That was wonderful.
My pleasure.
Good Sarah.
La Lima Pahoa is our nonprofit and we will be looking into doing an event or doing something in order to try to help the gentleman,
Daniel?
Pastor Daniel. Is there a way? Do we have any information
I'll
about that?
forward you some contact.
Okay, great.
Yeah, maybe he wants to come talk
Maybe we
to
can
you.
put a link on the site too.
Yeah, that'd
Can
be
you
good.
guys do that yet?
Links on,
Yes,
they
they
probably
can.
Yeah.
Thank you, Roger.
Yeah.
Pam, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your story with us, and hopefully we will be able to maybe in the near future, take a look at back and see, and what's happening for you, and then it's a beautiful place, it's a beautiful island, and you seem like you're not going to have any problem, just correcting this bit of an ebb that you have in your life, and I know that you certainly stumbled onto some great folks here.
I certainly did.
That will help.
Struck it rich that way.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you for sharing. And Gene, my gosh, there's never going to be enough thank yous for you.
Thank you. No problem.
So we'll say goodnight. Thank you very much, everyone, for
Thank you.
listening. It's 93.5 Aloha Nation Live.
Aloha.